The horrors of Disneyland. Let's see. Let's see what this is about. What's good, YouTube? Have you been? Yeah, I've been to Disneyland. Disneyland is sick. This video discusses real tragic events that occur by Disney parks and details. Okay, I'm not. Epcot hostage situation? Huh?
On the evening of Saturday, September 12, 1992, Alan Ferris walked through the front gates of Epcot. He was 37 years old. He was dressed like anyone else, blending in easily with the thousands of tourists moving through the entrance plaza that night. He did not look dangerous, didn't even look out of place. He simply looked like another guest carrying a bag. At that time, getting into a Disney park was a frictionless experience. There were no metal detectors. There were no security tents and no mandatory bag checks.
Yeah, I was 16. Wait, I'm confused. Wait, there's no fucking... Yo, I can't imagine in Disney nowadays with no security like that, bro. Like, imagine just being able to walk into Disney with, like, no one checking your bags and no metal detectors and shit. But I'd be so fucked nowadays, gently.
You would park your car, presented a ticket at the turnstile, and walked right in. Alan walked into the park carrying a dark duffel bag, and inside that bag was a fully loaded 12-gauge sawed-off shotgun and a handful of extra shells. He would navigate through the crowds of families, walking past the ambient lighting, the carefully maintained flower beds, and the popcorn carts. But he was not there to ride anything. He was there to find a specific woman. By the late summer of 1992, Alan's personal life had entirely unraveled. He had recently gone through a severe, messy breakup. His ex-girlfriend, working as a security guard inside Walt Disney World. The separation had broken him. He was unable to let the relationship go, and over the course of several weeks, his behavior had become desperate and erratic. He stalked her, harassed her. He had already survived a suicide attempt in the wake of the breakup. His actions escalated to a point where his ex-girlfriend went to the local authorities for protection.
Y'all be real, bro. Like, bro, ending it is never the answer, y'all. I'm gonna be dead ass, bro. Like, I don't know. The mental health shit is like really serious to me. So I was just like, bro, that shit is it's just sad, bro. There's more to life, bro. Y'all should really live, bro. You can do anything you want in this world. You gotta put your mind to it.
She filed for and received a legal restraining order against him. The court order was meant to be a hard physical boundary, a legal mandate requiring him to stay away from her home, and her place of work.
Inspirational?
But a restraining order is just a piece of paper.
I'm gonna be honest. Like, one of my goals for like when I'm bigger and stuff like that, like I really want to be an advocate for like mental health and shit like that. Cause like I don't know, I deal with that a lot personally. I won't lie, and I know how it is to feel like not a lot of people take it really that seriously. But yeah.
And it only works if the person it targets still cares about the consequences of breaking the law. But as for Alan, he had reached a point where he no longer cared about jail time, fines, or his own future. He knew exactly where she worked. He knew her shift schedule. He even knew the layout of the theme park. A theme park operates on the unspoken assumption that the real world, that with its domestic disputes, its violence, and its unpredictability, cannot cross into the theme park.
Gojxrd. Thank you, Angel. I appreciate it. I love y'all. I love when y'all are in chat and we talk.
Guests and employees naturally assume that they're inside a protected bubble. Alan carried his bag through the crowds, walking right past the invisible boundary of the restraining order, bringing a deadly weapon directly into the place where she was supposed to be the most secure.
Yeah, it's like a Google form or how?
Transforms after the sun goes down and the closing announcements begin. The cheerful background music continues to play from the hidden speakers. The noise of the crowd slowly drops away, and as Epcot officially closed for the night, the operations team began their standard routine. The rides were powered down, the maintenance crew began dragging out the hoses to wash the walkways, and the security guards began their nightly sweeps to ensure all the guests had left. But Alan had not left. He had stayed inside the park, lingering in the shadows near the pavilions, waiting for the crowds to thin. He was eventually spotted as unarmed Disney security guards were doing their exterior sweeps. They saw a man lingering in an area that was supposed to be clear. They approached him, likely intending to tell him the park was closed and guide him toward the front gates. But Alan did not wait for them to speak. He unzipped his bag and he pulled out his 12-gauge sawed-off shotgun, racked the slide, and leveled it at the approaching guards. And he pulled the trigger. The blast echoed violently across the empty concrete of the park. He pumped the shotgun and fired again, scattering.
Yo, why are they treating this shit like it's Call of Duty Zombies, bro? This is why. And see, why is it always that one motherfucker that got a ruin for everybody else? And that because of this, that's probably why they have fucking metal detectors, bro. Like, people are just so fucking weird, bro.
The unarmed guards. He fired 3 times in total, but he actually didn't hit them. But he didn't need to. The deafening sound of a shotgun was enough to force the guards to dive for cover and scramble for their radios. With the guards falling back, Alan retreated. He moved quickly into the Journey into Imagination Pavilion. It was a massive structure, defined by its striking geometric glass pyramids, designed to celebrate creativity and childhood wonder. And now, with the interior lights dimmed and all the guests gone, it was just a quiet, echoing building. Alan slipped inside through a set of doors and moved into one of the pavilion's public restrooms on the first floor. The space was bright. The fluorescent lights buzzed softly overhead. He stood in the quiet room, chambered a fresh round, and waited in the silence. Not everyone in the park knew what had just happened outside. While the exterior guards were radioing in the active shooter situation, 2 other Disney security guards were already inside the Journey to Imagination Pavilion during their routine sweeps. In the early 1990s, Disney security guards...
Yo, wait, what is this logo?
During the routine sweeps.
I'm sorry, this logo is tough, no? This is a fire logo. Yo, why can't I have a logo like this? Well, I don't even have a name for my comm yet. I need to think of a name for y'all, bro. I'm not gonna lie.
1990s, Disney security guards were entirely unarmed. They only carried radios and flashlights, and their primary training was in customer service. The 2 guards walked through the doors of the pavilion and pushed open the door to the public restroom. They expected to find empty stalls, and then move on to the next building, but as they opened the door, they walked directly into the barrel of a sawed-off shotgun. Alan Ferris was standing under the bright fluorescent lights, his feet planted, the weapon being leveled squarely at their chest. The guards froze, their hands went up instinctively, their mouths went completely dry. Staring down the massive dark bore of a 12-gauge shotgun from just a few feet away is an image that the brain struggles to process, especially when it happens inside a brightly lit restroom at Epcot.
Yo, what makes someone want to do this? Like, I always wondered, like, what really, that's what I'm saying, imagine like, what? Like, what really makes someone say, you know what, I'm gonna go to Disneyland, bring a fucking 12-gauge shotgun, and start going to ham, bro? Like, what?
Alan backed him into the corner against the
Are we in the back rooms?
A wall. He didn't ask for their wallets. He didn't ask for keys to the building. He kept his gun steady, stared at the 2 men, and gave them a single very clear order. He told them to use...
Yo, I'm gonna be honest though, if I'm in this situation, I would be peeing on this stall, like probably over here. I would witness the shit happening over here. I would probably just like, you know, go up to him, start peeing on him. Fuck it, bro. Take him out like that. If you be wondering, you think it'll be a distraction, be like, yo, what the fuck are you doing? The 2 guys start jumping him and shit. They steal his shotgun. And now look, it's 3v1 situation. I got my dick out. They got their hands on the shotgun. One dude just looking at my penis. We're chilling.
Their radios.
Take him out with your acid pee. Retweet.
Ordered them to contact dispatch immediately and demand that his ex-girlfriend be brought down to this exact restroom, standing just feet away from Alan, keeping his eyes locked on the gun. One of the guards slowly reached down to his belt, his hands shaking violently, unclipping the radio, and spoke into it, the man's voice echoing off the tile walls. He relayed the situation to the Central Security Office, telling him that they were trapped inside the restroom by a man holding a shotgun pointed at them, and he told them exactly who the man was demanding to see. Disney security immediately knew that they could not handle this internally. They locked down the immediate perimeter. They located the female guard Alan was asking for and secured her in a room on the other side of the property, far away from the pavilion. Of course, they were not going to give him what he wanted. And then they picked up their phone and called the Orange County Sheriff's Office. Within minutes, the perimeter of Epcot was completely swarmed. Heavily armed sheriff's deputies poured onto the property. Police cruisers completely surrounded the perimeter. Even SWAT officers, and they would form a tight tactical perimeter around the pavilion. The massive glass pyramids of the building reflected the strobing red and blue lights of the police vehicles parked on the concrete outside.
Yo, I'm so sorry. I know this is a very serious situation, and like I should probably be doing jokes about this, but I can't. It's kind of hard for me to take it seriously when this shit looks like a fucking Call of Duty map.
Reflected the strobing red and blue lights of the police vehicles parked on the concrete outside. It was now the early hours of Sunday, September 13th. Inside the bright tiled restroom, the passage of time slowed down to an agonizing crawl. The hostage portion of the standoff lasted roughly 10 minutes.
Actually, why isn't there a Call of Duty map?
But for the two guards backed against the wall, it felt like hours. They were trapped in a windowless box. Every sound in the room was magnified. They could hear the heavy, nervous breathing of the man holding the gun. They watched Alan's hands constantly, watching his finger resting on the trigger guard. A sawed-off shotgun is heavy, and holding it chest height takes a physical toll. Every time Alan shifted his weight, every time his arm got tired and the barrel dipped or raised a fraction of an inch, the guards flinched, bracing for a blast that would completely tear them apart.
What?
Outside, police negotiators established contact, telling Alan they had the building surrounded. They were trying to reason with him and trying to de-escalate the situation. Alan paced in the small space. The manic adrenaline from firing the shots outside was beginning to burn off, leaving behind a heavy, suffocating exhaustion. He was sweating, looking at the door repeatedly, and then back to the two guards, and he started muttering disjointed fragments of sentences.
Why Disneyland out of all places though? That's what I'm saying. If I'm going to anywhere in the world, why Disneyland? Like there's so many kids and like families and shit like that. Oh, that's just kind of sad.
Gone. The sirens had completely stopped, replaced by the heavy organized movements of tactical teams stacking up outside the doors. Alan listened to the sounds outside. The reality of the situation finally settled over him. He had bypassed security, brought the gun inside, fired shots and taken hostages. But the police were absolutely not going to bring his ex-girlfriend to an armed, unstable man. The two guards watched his body language begin to change.
Oh, hey, yo, what's good, Uzi?
His shoulders dropped. The heavy barrel of the shotgun lowered slightly toward the floor, and he stopped pacing. He looked at the two men pressed against the tile. They were just two guys in polo shirts, sweating through their collars, waiting to be killed over a relationship they had nothing to do with. And Alan made his choice.
You didn't tell me we were watching. You were watching a horror video, Madge. Yo, I'll be honest. It just kind of happened. We're watching the horrors of Disney. I said, "Fuck it, I'm down to watch it." Angel wants to watch it, and I said, "I'm down, bro. I'm down to watch it." Basically, right now it's about this guy. He's insane. He has a 12-gauge shotgun. There's two hostages in a bathroom, and he's at Disneyland. He's going crazy. He's playing Call of Duty Zombies in real life.
He told the guards to get out, and they didn't hesitate.
What the fuck?
They
Yeah,
backed
I don't
away
know.
slowly, keeping their hands completely visible until they were past the threshold of the door. They walked quickly out of the building, and as soon as they crossed the police perimeter, their legs nearly gave out. They were physically unharmed, but they were entirely drained. They had just survived the most terrifying 10 minutes of their entire lives. With the hostages now clear, the entire dynamic of the standoff shifted. Alan Ferris was now completely alone, and being surrounded, he had nowhere to go. Deputies outside gave him clear verbal commands.
No, what do you think about it? The Avengers could have helped though. Like they're at Disney. The Avengers could have helped though. Like gently.
Telling him to put the weapon down on the floor, telling him to walk out slowly with his hands empty. Alan did not answer the negotiators. He stood under the lights. He gripped the heavy wood of the stock, turned the barrel of the 12-gauge shotgun upward, and pointed it at himself.
What?
And he pulled the trigger. The deafening sound of the gun.
So not only he took out multiple people, he held people hostage. He said, "Fuck this shit" and called it a night. Why? I don't know. Like, LOL. Yo, like I don't know. Like, okay, I always found it interesting when like serial killers or like when like obviously like, insane people like this guy like do all that and just to end their lives. I get it in the sense like, bro, that's so selfish. I'm saying I agree. I get it in the sense that they don't want to go to jail, right? They rather just like end their life in GTA. But like, I don't know, like I feel like if you go through all that shit, like you know what I mean, you might as well pay the price for that shit. The fuck? to me, like taking yourself out like the easy way out, which is so it's just like I don't know. Like how do you live with that the horror that you just caused?
Shot violently filled the small tiled box. Sound echoed heavily outside the pavilion, rolling across the empty concrete walkways and bouncing off the surrounding structures. The deputies immediately rushed through the doors, clearing the building and pushing to the restroom with their weapons drawn, and they found Alan Ferris on the floor. The wound, of course, being massive and immediately fatal. There was no need to call for paramedics, and the standoff was over. It was the early hours of Sunday morning. The sun would come up in just a few hours. By 9 a.m., the front gates of Epcot would open again, and thousands of families would come pouring through the turnstiles, expecting a flawless, magical experience. Police processed the scene as fast as they legally could.
Wait, you're telling me this shit happened and Disney said, fuck it, we're keeping the park open for the next day? Yo, they're actually fucking, like, all they think about is money. Like, they're just so sad. Like, that all these people think about is money. Like, I don't know. I don't let the police do their job, no?
Photographs were taken, the body was removed. The shotgun and shell casing were collected in evidence bags. And as soon as police cleared the room, the maintenance crew moved in. They worked silently and rapidly in the dark. The restroom was closed off as they scrubbed the tile, washed down the walls, and sterilized the space. And when the park opened on Sunday morning, it opened exactly on time. Families were now walking past that pavilion and had absolutely no idea what had just happened hours earlier. And internally, the reality of what Alan Ferris had done created a permanent shift. It was a turning point that eventually led to the modern era of theme park security, the addition of bag checks, metal detectors, and a heavier police presence. Millions of people have walked through that specific pavilion in the decade since 1992.
Is this Florida or LA? I think it's Florida? Because Disneyland, is this Disney World or Disneyland? Disneyland. I think Disneyland is in, actually, was this California? Because I think Disneyland is in LA, Disney World is in Florida. Or some shit like that. I don't fucking know. I've been to Disney World, I think.
Guests stand at those sinks and wash their hands, looking in the mirror, completely unaware that where they were standing was the exact spot where that illusion of safety broke down entirely, and where a desperate man decided to end his own life.
I think I heard about this. No troll, I think I heard about this.
There is a literal and physical boundary at every single theme park. It is the line that separates the bright, carefully controlled fantasy the guests pay to see from the heavy industrial reality that actually makes it run. Usually, this boundary is nothing more than a pair of large wooden gates or a thick wall of trees. If you step to one side, you are completely surrounded by cheerful music, the clean sidewalks, and the perfect architecture. Go to the other side, and the music instantly starts to fade, and is replaced by the hum of generators and the sight of raw concrete staging areas. Javier Cruz spent his working life crossing back and forth over that line. He was 38 years old. He worked at Magic Kingdom in Walt Disney World, Florida. He had a family at home, including 2 children who knew exactly what their father did for a living. And his job was to cross that line every single afternoon, to leave his own identity on the concrete and then become someone else. His job was a character performer. Specifically, he was Pluto. And by all accounts, Javier was deeply committed to his work. He'd been doing this for nearly 8 years, and he knew exactly what it took to bring that animated dog to life. And he also knew that physical toll that it demanded. Being a costume
By the way, some mascots just creep me out. Like, this just looks weird.
Performer in Central
If I was a kid, I would stay away from
is
this shit.
incredibly demanding labor. When you put on a suit, you are encased in heavy layers of synthetic fabric and thick industrial foam. The temperature inside the costume can easily climb past 100 degrees on a warm afternoon, meaning you sweat constantly. But the heat is only part of that challenge. The hardest part is actually navigating the world. When Javier put on the Pluto head, his vision was instantly reduced. He could only see through a tiny mesh screen hidden in the neck of the dog. He had absolutely no peripheral vision. If he wanted to look at something beside him, he had to physically turn his entire torso. If he needed to look down, he had to tilt the massive heavy foam head.
I'm wearing my Minnie Mouse PJs I just noticed. Angel, no way. Whoa. Nah, Angel, you're part of this. You're part of the video. You're connected to the video. Hold on. Also, type in Vi Mini. Just watch.
Forward. not even mentioning that he had to wear
Illuminati.
oversized paws on his feet. They were long, wide, and clumsy. Walking normally was nearly impossible. Moving in the suit at all required a specific kind of stepping, almost like marching. You had to lift your knee up high, plant the heavy shoe flatly and repeat the same motion just to keep yourself from tripping. But Javier was used to all of this. After 8 years, the awkward walk and the suffocating heat were just part of his muscle memory, and he knew pretty well how to navigate the crowds. On Wednesday, February 11th, 2004, the park was operating exactly as it always did. The weather was actually mild, the crowds were heavy, and the afternoon entertainment was running on schedule. At 3 o'clock every day, the Share a Dream Come True parade goes through the streets of the park. The parade featured
Yo, why?
dozens of
Like, who the fuck is this guy? He looks like a fucking, he looks like the one dude, what's the guy from Overwatch? Oh my god, I know. Wait, I gotta find him, bro. He looks like this guy from Overwatch, bro. Sigma. He looks exactly like this dude. Yo, he dead looks like this dude. No troll. Why does he look exactly like him? LOL, no, he looks exactly like this dude. I'm not even trolling. Like, dead ass.
walking performers,
Yo, Sigma,
dancers,
how you
and a line
doing?
of enormous elaborate floats. These floats were essentially rolling multi-level buildings. They were built on top of a heavy truck chassis, and they were covered in thousands of pounds of fiberglass, steel framing, and moving animatronic
Yeah, it was
parts.
crazy. I thought they were here for me. Yo, Angel, I'm glad you're still here, bro. I'm glad you're still here, bro. I'm glad you're still here. You know, fuck ice, genuinely.
And because they were entirely enclosed in the decorative shell, the drivers sat deep inside the structures. A driver inside of one of these floats sat in a small, isolated compartment. They navigated the tight parade route by peering through tiny hidden windows or small video monitors wired to external cameras, meaning they had
LOL,
massive
the
blind spots.
SWAT? Okay, I thought you meant SWAT as in ice. I'm not gonna lie. My bad. But like, wait, the SWAT team, yo, is your neighbor like a fucking serial killer then?
A driver inside one of those machines could not see the ground directly in front of their own wheels. Just before 3 o'clock, the parade cast gathered in the backstage staging area. It was located right behind the wooden gates near Splash Mountain. Cast members were getting into their starting positions and pulling the heavy character heads over their faces. Once the heads went on, they were no longer allowed to speak. They could only communicate with each other through exaggerated gestures, nods, and hand signals. Javier was fully dressed in the Pluto suit. His assignment for the specific parade was to walk near the front of the Beauty and the Beast float.
Yo, why does it look like a
This
fucking character
float
selection
was
shirt?
massive. It was a towering 3-part structure designed to look like a series of enormous snow globes. It carried several performers and weighed thousands of pounds. Javier took his position near the front of the vehicle, and the cue was given. The cheerful, upbeat parade music started blaring through the hidden speakers out in the park. The heavy wooden gates slowly swung open, and the parade officially started. The walking characters always went out first, leading the large vehicles. Javier started moving forward toward the open gates, and behind him, the driver of the Beauty and the Beast float put the heavy machine into gear, and the massive structure started to roll forward. They were still in the backstage staging area. They were just approaching the open gates when something interrupted Javier's rhythm. Maybe the fabric of the costume shifted. Maybe the oversized paws caught an uneven patch of the concrete floor. But regardless, his foot was caught, falling forward hard onto the concrete. Inside the suit, he was entirely trapped, the foam head hitting the ground, jarring his already limited vision. He was lying on the pavement, encased in heavy padding, unable to easily bend his knees or use his hands to push himself up.
Oh! He got
He
crushed
had
by the
almost no
thing?
visibility to see what was coming behind him. The loud parade music was echoing off the walls, and the diesel engine of the float was roaring right at his back. Even if he screamed for help, it was impossible to hear a human voice from inside the foam head
Oh my
over the overwhelming
god!
noise of the staging area. And so, the Beauty and the Beast float kept moving forward. The driver had no way of knowing that a man had just fallen directly in the
Okay,
vehicle's
but no one there could have helped him? There's like, it's Disneyland, there's so many people there!
path. Other cast members standing nearby saw the fall.
What happened? My AirPods died? Basically, the guy in the Pluto suit, he got caught up in something, he tripped and fell, and now the Beauty and the Beast, the little car thing that's driving right now on screen, that's about to run him over.
And the panic was instant. Performers in full costume started waving their arms frantically, trying to get the driver's attention. Several people broke formation and rushed toward Javier,
Okay.
grabbing at the heavy yellow fabric of the suit, pulling desperately, trying to drag him clear of the tires. But they were simply not fast enough.
What?
The driver slammed on the brakes as soon as he realized what was happening in front of him. But a machine that heavy carries tremendous momentum. It cannot stop instantly, so it continued to roll forward. The third section of the massive float rolled directly over him.
Oh,
The injuries were catastrophic and immediate.
What?
Javier Cruz died right there on the backstage pavement.
Oh!
The cast members who had
Yo, I feel so bad because you know how fucking heavy that shit is, and it's probably like it's probably slow. So that shit, oh my, bro, that probably was a slow and painful death. Yeah, I feel so bad, bro.
just lunged forward
Genuinely
and helped him,
R.I.P.
now stood over
Genuinely
the body
R.I.P.
of their friend. The wooden gates were still open, and the music was still playing. Theme parks operate on a rigid, unrelenting schedule. A 3 o'clock parade happens at 3 o'clock. The guest experience is prioritized above almost anything else, and the tourists lining up on the street had almost no idea what was happening. The staging area was quickly swarmed by area around Javier was secured, and the Beauty and the Beast float was immediately halted and pulled out of the lineup, and the rest of the parade was told to keep moving. The cast members who had just watched Javier die in front of them, who were still processing the shock and the panic, were forced to turn away and continue. They had to adjust their costumes, they had to go back, they had to wave, had to dance, and act out their routines. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration immediately stepped in to investigate the accident. They shut down all parade operations at the park while they examined the safety protocols that allowed a performer to be crushed by his own float.
Oh my.
The investigation revealed that the
so
working conditions
sad.
were simply too
That's
dangerous,
actually so sad, bro.
and Disney was fined $6,300, which
Only
was a relatively small amount of money for the company.
6,000? They should have got paid like 100K. The fuck?
Accident forced permanent changes upon the entire theme park industry. Characters were no longer allowed to walk directly in the path of moving floats. The parks today are undeniably safer because of what happened to Javier, but those changes offer very little comfort to the people who were standing in the staging area that afternoon. They are the ones who had to carry the memory of what had just happened. Years later, that normal Wednesday morning would take on a very different meaning. A story began circulating online from someone who had been a guest in the park on that specific day. Or scrolling back through their old photos from their family vacation, they found a picture of themselves standing in the Magic Kingdom. They were smiling, laughing, and getting a warm hug from Pluto. They checked the time and date stamp on the digital file. It was taken the morning of February 11th, 2004. The person inside the suit,
I was born that year
the
too.
person making them laugh and giving them a hug,
I wasn't even born
was
yet.
Javier. It was a completely normal vacation for those guests,
R.I.P.
and it was a completely normal Wednesday morning for Javier's 2 children, who knew their dad was at work, making people smile. And just a few hours after that picture was taken, the heavy wooden gates opened. Javier stepped into the staging area and never came back out.
R.I.P. Jen, that's so sad. I'm not gonna lie to you, that was the saddest one in my opinion. That was sad. It looks like we have a small little bit here. Hidden in the Matterhorn. Matter what? Huh? Matter? Matter what? Huh? Matter? Matter, daddy?
Most people go to a theme park to escape reality. They want the bright colors, the cheerful music, and the comforting feeling that the outside world cannot reach them. But when the crowds leave and the music finally stops, what remains is completely
My
different.
Wi-Fi, oh my god.
Beneath the surface, the place is just a collection of heavy, unforgiving machinery. When the Matterhorn bobsleds opened in it was an unprecedented feat of engineering. The designers built a 147-foot artificial mountain out of timber and tubular steel, effectively dropping a piece of the Swiss Alps directly into Southern California. And for decades, it always delivered exactly what it was designed to do, accompanied by the terrifying roar of a Yeti. The Matterhorn wasn't just an attraction, it was a massive, heavy structure relying on gravity and momentum, and it had actually claimed real lives.
Huh?
In May of 1964, a 15-year-old boy named Mark Maples was riding the bobsleds with a friend, but as his car neared the very summit of the mountain, Mark unbuckled his seatbelt and stood up. He lost balance and was thrown from the bobsled, and he fell to the
Okay, alright, no offense, but like, why the fuck are you gonna stand up mid-ride? That was mid-ride, right? Like, no offense, he stood up mid-ride. Why the fuck would you do that? Who has that idea in their head?
track beneath him. He suffered massive injuries and would pass away 3 days later. And then came January of 1980, where a 48-year-old woman named Dolly Young was riding the Matterhorn alone. As her bobsled sped through the pitch-black interior of the cavern, she was somehow thrown from her seat. She also landed directly on
No
the
survival
tracks.
skills, I'm saying.
The interior of the mountain is completely dark, making it impossible for the operators to see what had just happened.
Damn.
Before anyone realized she was missing from her bobsled, she was struck by a trailing car, dying instantly inside the cavern. After each of these tragedies, the ride was shut down temporarily, and minor modifications were made to make it safer. And then the very next morning, when the sun came up, the ride would run again like nothing happened.
What?
But the mountain also hides another thing. For years, the original Yeti animatronic was an opposing, aggressive figure. It was specifically designed to stun the viewer and give them fear right before the bobsled slipped away into the next
Alright, be honest, y'all going? Y'all going? Shit, you know what, bro? I'd fuck it.
tunnel.
This is why I don't trigger warning shower. Also, put a trigger warning on that.
It
what
was
is
a
that?
masterpiece
What?
of tension.
What does that have to do with anything?
But as technology advanced, and the machinery eventually breaks down, and when the park finally decides to upgrade to newer, more modern animatronics, the original figures were removed. They're cataloged, wrapped up, and put into storage.
Wait, what do you mean, Angel?
And so, there was a backup for the original Yeti, a spare figure, built and kept off-site just in case the primary one ever failed. Cast members even called him Harold. And for years, he sat in a massive, poorly lit storage warehouse, gathering dust. And whenever an employee had to retrieve a piece of equipment, they would walk into the pitch-black room, flip on the lights, and would see him sitting in the far end of the room completely still. This would scare a lot of the employees. Workers would report that it felt like the massive creature had been watching the door the entire time.
Okay, but why don't they just get rid of it,
Give
though?
the employees a strange feeling every time they had to walk into the warehouse alone. His synthetic fur was matted with years of neglect. You could see the exposed joints in his arms, the lifeless steel, and the motors were dead. Harold occupied that space for years. The company has never officially confirmed of what actually happened to the backup Yeti, so it's definitely possible that he was finally dismantled and sold for scrap parts, or just completely destroyed, or it could still be there, sitting in the warehouse,
someone's inside that? That'd be
waiting for
so
the next
scary.
employee to turn on the lights and see a terrifying sight.
Damn. I think it just goes to show that like no place is ever really that safe, unfortunately. Like not even fucking Disneyland, bro, of all places. Yeah, that was a good video though. Good shit, bro. Good shit. Question? I might check out more of his videos. I followed him. I'm sub to this guy. I like him. Y'all just gotta stay safe out there, gentlemen. Y'all just gotta stay safe. This world is very, 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 very cruel and unexpected, and you never know what's really gonna happen. You just gotta pray for your safety.